And we are live. Back this time for some more Agatha All Along. This time, episode 7. And this will be the last single episode drop for 1 week. Because starting next week, we'll have 2 episodes to end the series. We still have some concerns heading into that. So let's talk about them. All right, guys, Brent here, back with Variants. Cover all things Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. This time, I got the all along, and so far, I gotta say, it actually has been a very solid series. I did not come in with much of an expectations, truth be told. Marvel has had this beautiful thing going where it's like, it's really great, it's really bad, it's really okay, it's really great, and so on and so forth. It's just been this pendulum ride of us chasing the highs and the lows that normally we were experiencing only highs, back in the day. Welcome on in, Antonio. Welcome back. It's a pleasure having you here as always. And as always, guys, be sure to hit that lovely like button if you want to have more people to talk in the chat with, such as our amazing annual resident Antonio, who I think has probably more watch time than just about any member of the Geek Variants community, which out of over 1,100 members, that's a flex. That is a fantastic flex. And remember, guys, every single minute counts. We are so close to getting this channel monetized thanks to your support. So I greatly appreciate you guys. Any help with the like button is greatly appreciated. And again, we are also multi-streaming on Twitch. So if you have Twitch and wanted to, give us a follow, by all means, both are free. But let's talk about Agatha because that's what you're truly here for. You're not here to listen to me pander or talk about the behind the scenes of Geek Variants. Because look, Agatha has been a fantastic series. Wiccan has been a very, very good character. And I know Wiccan being the way he is going to rub some people the wrong way. Him just having a relationship is apparently a problem. But based on what we saw last week, it looked like he had a really happy and a really healthy relationship. He was able to become his true self and really shine who he really is. We finally got that big reveal at the end there of who he really is and really what he was about. And like a lot of people did tune in last week. Last week was absolutely popping. Last week it was a fantastic time with each and every member who was chatting up, throwing up their theories, their ideas, everything involving the show. And I'm going to revisit my notes just to make sure I had everything correct. Because look, throughout our time getting our boy, you know, Wiccan back in the limelight here, it's been interesting to see how the other witches have appeared. The divination witch originally seems to be the one who sent him down this little magic road. She had, him in the tent, and she was basically giving him some free advice to kind of push him along into who he is. Then we kind of go on later. The protection witch is also a cop that visits the scene involving his parents. On top of that, while Billy is trying to figure out more about who he is and what he has going on, the potions witch is on basically YouTube or Marvel's, equivalent to it, which could still just be YouTube. Who knows? I'm not really the resident expert. Our resident expert will be potentially back next week. Hope to have him back in full swing. But she was basically running a YouTube channel selling potions and making sure everything of that nature was headed up properly. We have a total of 3 episodes left, but next week's a doubleheader. They will be finishing up with episode 8 and episode 9, same time next week, but 2 episodes, not one, 2 episodes to finish up because Marvel really wanted to get this done to finish just before Halloween. So we kept that Halloween spirit that everyone's looking for around this time of year, which, hey, I absolutely love Halloween. Fantastic holiday. Tons of fun for everybody, whether it be just dressing up or you're a fatty like me and you just want to eat as much candy as possible on the cheap because now is that time of year. Sure, we keep our lights off and it's not really a trick or treating area, but more candy for me. I'm into that 100%. and then everything else going on, we brought back Ralph Boner from last week. Well, from last season of Agatha All Along. He makes a cameo and he gets to be this crazy dude from Reddit who's talking about how Agatha and Wanda were invading his mind and how he was slowly losing himself and like he had to ultimately give up his workout equipment and his house value went down. And now we're kind of seeing some of the fallout that really just happened from Westview if you were a standard person who was just living your life normally minding your business while all of a sudden two witches start having a mental battle throughout your city, which hey, absolutely crazy and definitely an interesting time overall. We had a lot of manifestation of powers last week, but now we have to figure out what we're ultimately going to do with them. We're going to get back to the witches road, we're going to get back to Wiccan, and we're going to get back to Agatha, who've kind of had a bit of a falling out party. They've been arguing back and forth now, but who's doing this? Who's doing that? Who's going to push the envelope this way? Who's going to make things interesting that way? They just seem to really be in this power struggle for who's actually in charge. And from what I'm seeing, it looks like, based upon the thumbnail for the episode that has just dropped, Death's Hand in Mine, which I'm assuming is going to be a shout out to Rio. So we're going to see Aubrey Plaza's character come back and try and at least take what we have going on right here. And when Agatha acts like a villain, the show is just better. Her and Sofia Falcone are really right now showing the breadth of what female villains can be with really good writing. And I'm not saying this writing is equivalent to Penguin because right now Penguin is the show of the year, hands down, because when its worst episode is still better than some of the other series' best episodes that we're watching this year, that's when you know it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm sure Antonio would absolutely that is made a huge staple and is even rumored to play a significant part in the Batman 2 when we get to that portion in time. The episode is in fact up. So if you guys wanted to go ahead and pull that up on your Disney Plus and keep the stream up off to the side while we discuss what's going on, I'm basically just waiting for a there we go. There's the minute marker so I can leave it in chat so we can all sync up and watch the episode accordingly. So I'm dropping that in the chat for everybody so we can all join, have a good time, and see how this episode is going to progress. Right now, we have the 124-minute mark sync. The title screen should be saying Death's Hand in Mine. Sophia's eye acting alone is them both better than both writing teams DC and Marvel. I mean, DC's technically the one that wrote that, but again, we still have to give huge credit to HBO because James Gunn came out and was like, "Hey, I didn't have a hand in that. I didn't touch it. I didn't really supervise it. So it's just its own separate entity." Which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for him. Like, you won by not being involved. I'd rather, especially if I was the head of a company such as that one, that ultimately I had some hand in it. So I can be like, yeah, I was involved, but ultimately, all credit goes to the writers and we move forward accordingly with that. Because especially when you're starting over new with DC, which is on its third reboot in the last 20 something years, I think most people are ready for them to get some serious wins on the board. Antonio is ready to go. So without further ado, in 3, 2, 1, let's start Death's Hand in Mine. See what Rio is going to get up to with all the shenanigans involving this episode. Because we have a lot more questions we need answered for certain. Let's open up our episode with Lilia, who was our divination witch, who last time we saw her was in a ditch. I didn't mean to rhyme, but hey, sometimes you just got to have the time. Okay. It's a super weird slow mo following, almost Game of Thrones esque music. Her falling into some abyss. She's kind of dressed like a Cinderella Disney esque princess from back in the time. Interesting way to open up the episode. But I think ultimately, okay, we're back with Wanda, not Wanda, Agatha and Wiccan. I have gotten them mixed up at least a dozen times throughout this series. But again, I was able to speculate correctly that the teen was going to be Wiccan back in episode 1. So, mm. Yeah, this is like a mentor mentee role of, upset thing because he needs information. Who else are you gonna get information from here? I mean, X Best gonna be one way of doing it. Yeah. So he seems to have an indifferent relationship with Wanda, which I'm sure she would feel very strongly about that. I mean, is Wanda ever really gone? Is she though? Is she ever really gone? She just dropped a mountain on herself, and we never officially saw her like gone. The only other person that saw her body was Death, which makes it all the more convoluted because anytime you involve Rio, it's going to be, oh, that's a cool looking castle, but also that is probably pretty high on my list of, nope, I'm not going in there. That's going to be a fun challenge. Mm, in your experience. Yeah. Alive on the road. Wiccan's very confident about what's going on here, considering he wasn't able to control his magic just last episode. Like he used it the episode before when he was angry, and emotion seemed to unlock his full potential. Goodness, at what cost? And again, I still keep forgetting we're just barefoot trekking this. It's like Lord of the Rings, but less cool because you don't have, Samwise Gamgee. Let's see. We've finally made it all the way up to the spooky castle. Wicked Witch of the West and Maleficent. So gotta love all that. Disney's just like, hey, remember the great stuff we've done? Sell the merchandise here. And cheekbones actually do kind of fit. That's the craziest thing about this. All right. I really wouldn't mess with the tarot deck. Yeah, he immediately grabs at a trap triggers. Like, good job, Wiccan. Definitely an interesting looking board. It would be fun to like kind of do like a D&D campaign around a table, like that well done. And she's leaving behind her past and her kid. He's not very good at this. Should have let Agatha read. Like you need to sell basically. Oh, great! Now we have falling swords. Let's add that to our mystery box of insanity. Oh, there's a bunch of them. Ah, yeah. Try harder. Try to be better. There's swords hanging in the ceiling, about to impale both of them at any time. He's like, yeah, she betrayed and deceived just about everybody. Hmm. So is she actually being truthful with everything going on right now? That was too close. That's about 4 feet from everybody. It's all charisma for tarot. And she is just going full send. And that would have been it. Well, look at them go. Yeah, that time is clicking down. Oh, we have a curveball. Oh, okay. The ceiling is now dropping upon both Wiccan and Agatha, which is great because a ceiling full of swords is good. Mm. So there's an underground, our divination witch is alive, and our potions witch is alive, which is fantastic. And they seem to be having a at least they're alive under all of this. The joys of being, everything involving witch, like especially divination witch, seems her mind to be a little bit more sensitive than everybody else's. So she just keeps falling in and out of conversation. So like, but again, is she being controlled or is she doing this purposefully as just part of her thing? Is she being truly controlled by somebody? Someone is pulling her strings in some way, shape, or form. So, oh, Sicilian, wow, the beautiful island that's just on the southern tip, or just off the southern tip of Italy. So, her going all the way back to Sicily is that's crazy. A lot of traveling. Like if you're gone, time's just kind of. She was probably insanely good at tea leaves, just not in a positive way. Denial is easier than accepting a terrible fate. Interesting artwork on her thing of the two crouched men. And like if you saw Harry Potter, should be able to see this. She was in Game of Thrones. Who wasn't in Game of Thrones that slowly translated into something else involving Marvel at this point? I'm just waiting until we get like Lena Headey popping over here, but she seems not to be a fan of the product all that much. But again, the paycheck's the right size. Everyone will do it. We even have Kit Harrington over here as the Black Knight, but we haven't seen anything good come out of that yet. She's holding on to little bit of sanity left. It's like they need to get on the same page and they need to get on the same page fast. Because if you have a member of your group who has amazing powers like divination, but is a little mentally loose, probably keep a close eye on her because she'll give you the right answer at the least opportune time. Still a right answer though, and survival is the name of the game on this road. Hmm. She's basically time skipping. I wonder what she was doing like on the in between of the gap of everything. Like, is she just slowly losing control of herself entirely? Like, could someone be taking control of her? Or because again, there's so many powerful magic users. It's just everyone's gonna scream Mephisto at the top of their, you know, head. But again, it's not really. Everyone made it back together. Okay, she's supposed to be the good fairy godmother, and then the other witch, our potions witch, is basically supposed to be Snow White's witch, the one who gave her the poisoned apple. I mean, we were on the same page there, Antonio. We're on the same page. Everyone in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is clamoring for Mephisto, but again, no one's asking what the right question is. Are we actually ready right now in this moment in time to have a character of Mephisto's magnetism and level of power on screen in any way, shape, or form? Because we got Dormammu, and I hate to say it, but that was a giant letdown. It was a big ball of nothing. It was a nothing sandwich. and it's a fantastic character. So just to have it sitting on the bench is just seems a little wasteful. But again, we could revisit it because Marvel's just searching for a lot of things going on right now. Everyone just needs to stop bickering and figure out what's going on here because we have our divination witch and we have a tarot table. Like if we go tarot table, divination witch, that's a power combo. We make that move. We make that play right now. Oh, and just a friendly reminder to those checking in on the stream, we still have a community post up about you want more Baldur's Gate 3 or you want the continuation of the Fallout series right now. It's 4-2 in favor of doing Baldur's Gate 3 honor mode run stream coming up. The voting will be closed after Saturday. And again, even if we have Wanda back, are we going to utilize her correctly or like the way we have been? And there's a lot of vague interpretation of that, I know, but I wasn't exactly sold that they're using the Scarlet Witch correctly. Because I was going to say, is like, you need to remember the ceiling is still coming down while you're having this discussion. So a divination witch can figure this work. So she's been experiencing everything entirely out of loop, but where's the when are we gonna jump in time to the moment where she was at the freaky table? What? And she's back in Sicily again. Or at least it looks like Sicily. I mean, is she really good at her craft? Mm-mm. Have you, Kevin? No. But again, witches just tend not to perfect. It didn't work out the first time. What happened the first time? She's a great actress, so getting something solid or concrete could be nice. Because the terrible thing about being having a gift of vision is you aren't always necessarily able to while you're able to see the future, you're not able to interpret how to get to that future. So that's the issue we're experiencing with our divination witch currently. Hmm. Like she basically needs to time jump to her correct part and just give the correct answer, but she also has to find herself at what's that book? Okay, I thought that was going to be like a dark hold book. That's the teens book, which has a lot of answers, I would hope, to what's going on here, considering he seems to be the only person who's done some level of consistent research. And she already met him before he was him, or he was officially Billy. Mm. Dude, trying to do like the whole Jedi thing of I turned it off. I couldn't control it. Things are going bad. Okay, and then this is them jumping back in time again. The shelving's how they got in the room. The ceiling starts coming down. All the shenanigans ensue, and now they need to interpret things correctly. Eh, I wish Lily was here. It's like, why didn't you just wish for the end then? Complicated relationship, to say the least. But the road has brought everybody back together, but we still left Sharon out. Sharon, of all people. That's a fair reaction. I mean, I have a ceiling full of swords dropping down on me. Well, crap. It's definitely going to be it. Uh, mm, eh, eh. That was a joke. Not even going to address it. That was a bad joke. Yeah, because we need to do this correctly. and things need to go the right direction, or it's not gonna happen. There we go. Now we're asking the real questions. Are you William? Are you Billy? Are you both? Something the feeling's not trying to kill you anymore. So that's a huge step in the right direction. Okay. The reason for the quest. I know very little about tarot, so I don't have any actual answers pertaining to this. And I don't know the level of accuracy that they went to everything going here. Mhm. Yeah. Mm. We just need him to focus up, or we're gonna have a serious problem on our hands. The magician. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Which is what Agatha saw in him, which is why she keeps side eyeing him because she wants his power. Reunion could be his brother. Oh, so what is he leaving behind? Ah, so this is why she's been screaming through our random things, which is really showing the writing is actually fairly solid. So everyone else is kind of like going through crazy moments and times. This is it. Why is she even on this turn? She wanted to be part of a coven again. Get her power back. Because you can't really lie to your mom like that. So that part. They got wiped out by a fever, black plague. I would assume. But again, could be something more at play here, considering it's witches. You think they'd be able to defeat the black plague? Because this is the woman she saw at the death table that she's terrified of. Hmm. So we're getting a lot of really deep answers for her. She's doing a great job. Hmm. Yeah, you probably should have a lot of questions. This was them originally ending up in the tunnel. I don't think we're gonna see death in this episode. I think death, if any, okay. If we see death, it'll be at the end or in this kind of our sneak peek for next week because death comes for us all. And as Lilia is predicting, the end is very near. Oh no, no, no. The seven witches. We're gonna go back down this road. They're all just still going after Agatha, but they're using these tunnels as creepily as possible. So that's great. Huh. This time skipping is making things very interesting. Hmm. No wonder they said they had like a bonding moment. This is that. I still don't know why we're seeing a metro train hanging out down there, but it's worth noting. 'Cause if you're gonna truly do the road, you're gonna need to go ahead and do it the right way. So she's going to make a. Okay, we're changing this. She's dealing her own hand. And now she's following what her training is because she's lived through these experiences and weird moment in time. So nothing's falling. Room is still coming down there. It's supposed to unwind still. Now she has to go back through all of her moments in time. Because this is her joining with Coven, which is what that community is supposed to symbolize. She's still likely going to die at the end of this series, but she's really delivering right now. Because the protection witch is definitely gone. She's not coming back in any way, shape, or form. And you can't rush something of this nature at all. Huh. We are definitely going down a very interesting road here. Of course, it's a picture of Agatha, which is what she saw initially when she met Billy, or who we had before, William. Oh, plop. And sent her back again. What is this time loop? Is that her mom, or is that just one of the seven? Oh, it's Deb. There she is. You were asking where Aubrey was. Um, yep. So death was coming for her this whole time. This is part of everything that's going on right now. This is a reveal that's like 3 episodes late. I'm gonna be a that person right there. Oop, and made it by the skin on their chinny chin chin. But Rio has officially been confirmed as death, which was ruined by Funko Pop. I want to say like a month ago for most of us. So congrats to those who just caught up to that time. And yes, that means Death and Agatha were in a relationship. So let's just be honest about that. Technically saved them, but again, they're at still with Death. Hmm. Oh wow. Mm. She liked literally the worst person you probably could have. Yep. Time to avoid the seven as long as you can before something bad goes happen. When she calls you coward, hit the deck. So she had another vision. And every time they still spell magic, they're spelling it with a K. But it's not spelled like the X-Men magic where it's Magik. You're still having the C there. But ultimately it looks like she's turning to face what she believes is gonna happen and death slash Rio. So Antonio accidentally calls him. There's a rat, which is supposed to symbolize the Black Plague, which was the death that originally came from the Coven. Oh, no snakes. No snakes. Let's not go down that road. There's the fox, so the symbolism's continuing of them. Crow. Yep, yep. They have appeared, and the end for her. Yeah, she was definitely doing the thing. Okay. Oh, nice grab. That's a good play, though. Reverse the entirety of the room, including the gravity, and then you try and send the 7 into the swords. So that's peculiar. Can you imagine standing outside a building, though, and watching just go whoop and just fixing itself like that? Because while all of them have been impaled by swords, again, I still don't think that's the end for the 7. And then she just accepted her fate as well. Because, I mean, I don't know what else you're going to do. She needed to accept her fate in order to move forward with her life. Will that be the end of the episode? No. Looks like she's running back to meet her mom and finally rejoin her after all of this time. I wonder if now she gets to like live her life both normally without the time skips now that her mission is complete. I still do hate that the episodes end so early because there's like 6 minutes of credits, which is still crazy. And there's still a lot of really, really important questions kind of moving forward for, this series in general. And yeah, this is significantly better send off, Antonio. Absolutely. We are in the recap portion of the episodes, guys. So if you want to have more folks to chat it up with, you know where the like button is. Go ahead and leave us comments. Let's discuss and let's begin discussing Agatha Long, episode 7, Death's Hand in Mine. And it's Death's Hand in Mine because she finally agreed to hold hands with Death and go willingly, because it definitely changes how you pass on to the next life, whether you're accepting of your fate or you're fighting against it. Because more often than not, most people talk about, at least spiritually, that if you are fighting your, whatever going on with your life, or you have deep regrets or deep sorrow, you usually stick on in this life as like a ghost, which death hates because it cannot come claim you, and you're just trapped on the in between. Well, you're not part of the physical plane, but you're not part of the immaterial plane at the same time. Because our divination witch was been struggling with that for so long, her mental capacity has been a little shot. She's had to like operating with a few screws loose and has made the most of her situation thus far. But the fact that she was able to at least buy everyone some time and invert the tower directly onto the 7 so we could get that ending there is a huge step in the right direction for her. She was willing to accept her fate, her life, all that had transpired, that she met sisters that she truly wanted to be with. And she even gave parting advice to Agatha, of all people, saying, hey, when she calls you coward, duck. Which means something in the next 2 episodes, Agatha is going to have to go back in that moment and pay attention to that. Because this series writing really, really stands out because of this episode. Because before we thought she was just kooky and nuts and would just shout random things at random times. Every single shot we've seen since episode 1 of her, all the way up till now, has just been foreshadowing for episode 7. It's good writing. I enjoy it. I think they've done a fantastic job, just putting a lot of things into perspective overall, of a lot of the things that ultimately a lot of us didn't really come in with expectations for. Because let's just be honest here, I don't think many people were expecting this series to be nearly as good as it is. And right now, we're doing a thing. If only Penguin wasn't airing simultaneously, Aubrey would have me in a chokehold, but I'm loyal to Sophia. Antonio, I have nothing to say as far as your chokehold, but it sounds like you're in a great lover's triangle. Enjoy both while you can, because Aubrey Plaza is a fantastic actress, and the actress whose name I always forget, who's playing Sophia Falcone in The Penguin, has been absolutely incredible as well. They are both showing their prowess in different ways, but at the same time, doing an incredible job of showing us just what they're capable of with good writing behind them. Actors can only be so good if you don't have good writing. This show has good writing, therefore, it's coming along well. We still have many questions that need to be addressed, but where we're going currently, I'm definitely satisfied overall with what we're seeing. I'm definitely more fascinated to see what our resident Marvel expert Will has to say when he does come back on up to discuss everything involving Marvel, because this is his baby, this is his bread and butter, and he'll be able to piece things together that I ultimately wouldn't. Still canon that Sharon's more powerful than Wiccan after she stopped him with her car. Oh yeah, that is entirely canon, and that's something I'll hold on to my dying breath. Thanos probably had to ask Sharon permission in order to snap away half the population. That's also head canon that I have living right up here. Is it true? No. Is this something I believe? Yes. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put that out there into the realm of potential possibility as we're all just trying to piece together what's ultimately happening here. And the fact that Death was finally able to reveal herself was very interesting because she's looking for more bodies because Death is the ultimate greedy collector. Death cannot be stopped, and Death will come for us all eventually. That's basically the purpose of what Rio's character and function within the MCU is. And in the comics, we know that Thanos was trying to woo Death instead of just, trying to do population control and be like, there's too many of us, we're destroying everything. Ultimately, he was just trying to get it on with Death and offer her the greatest gift anyone ever could, which was half of human, well, not just human, well, half of existence, period. So we're definitely going to have to address that elephant in the room at some point, or maybe we won't even address the fact that Deadpool tried to sleep with Death and was actually almost succeeding until Thanos gifted him eternal life so that he couldn't because, Thanos is just blocking. And yeah, Agatha knew that was Death all along. She straight up was like, yeah, I have a thing for bad boys. Agatha has a type. Agatha has people that she is, in fact, interested in. And Agatha wanted desperately to be with somebody. So, of course, she decides to pick a relationship with Death. I feel like she's filling that same role that Thanos should have in the comics, or at least did in the comics, but should have in the MCU, which would have been, I think, more of a fascinating tell than what we're currently doing. But hey, getting Aubrey Plaza as Death is definitely not a bad casting and has definitely been working out for us thus far. Sure, we've seen about this much in terms of like actual information involving Death and Agatha's relationship, but we know that Agatha was ultimately able to make a huge sacrifice of her entire coven, likely to death, and in her own firstborn also to death in order to get the Darkhold. So we know that when she has smitten, she tends to be a gift giver, which is a love language for those of us who care about such things, and was trying to make sure she could find her way in to Death's good graces, and apparently she found her way into Death's heart, which, you know, that's interesting in of itself, and definitely a weird conversation to have with anybody to try and piece those things together about how that happened. But again, with Agatha, never say never because we still need to delve into the seven that are chasing them, even though we saw them get speared through with swords. But again, I'm not counting them out at this moment in time. I mean, we could end up getting Ralph Boner because remember, we saw WandaVision for what it was. We enjoyed it for what it is. But again, with WandaVision, it didn't end as solidly as the buildup had been going. But sometimes, you get shows like that where the buildup is so amazing, you're not ever going to get a satisfactory ending. Game of Thrones. Sorry, my bad there. But at the same time, like right now, they just have to have a solid enough ending to where they can show that ultimately we're going to get Billy's brother back, Tommy, because we need to have the Maximoff twins back in some capacity. And I know most people usually refer to Maximoff twins, they're referring to both Wanda and her brother. But again, we have Billy and Tommy, and they would be far more important moving forward than bringing back Quicksilver because let's be honest, he's kind of boring. No one really cares about speedsters and Marvel. Just call that what that is. That's more of a DC thing. And with everything going on currently, the Young Avengers would serve more purposes, even though, and we talked about this last week, who in the world are the Young Avengers going to actually fight that you actually think at some moment in time is going to be sufficient enough to where the battle's like you don't sit there scratching your head afterwards, kind of like when Namor was fighting the new Black Panther, where you're like, sure, he shouldn't have won. There, I said it. Shouldn't have. There's nothing in anyone's right mind to where that should have happened. But again, everyone was, stuck up in the moment and just was like, yeah, absolutely, she can do this. We believe in her. It's like, absolutely not. The power levels don't match up. The intelligence levels don't match up. He had the full on advantage. He came to your home field, wrecked your shop. So why in the world would you going to his home field would he lose? It did not make sense. There was nothing there to be definitively saying that that W should have happened. So for us here now to try and say, hey, we're going to get the Young Avengers together. We're going to get Billy. We're going to get Tommy. We have Patriot in play. We have Ironheart in play. We have Scar in play. We have Kate Bishop in play. We have Miss Marvel. Like there are pieces here that are already established and already just designated to fill certain roles, and we're going to see how they deal with that at this time, even without even addressing, anything involving the X-Men and them having a young team, or how that could impact what's going on. So there's a lot of moving pieces and there's a lot of interesting stuff to take a look at. And next week we'll have 2 episodes to get some more answers and then hopefully get a solid landing spot for this series, because we're enjoying this series. It just happens to be at a terrible time. If this show dropped when the Penguin wasn't on, things would be a heck of a lot better. Gore's daughter was a son in the comics. I cannot say definitively. And I'm just going to be flat out honest with y'all. Gore was not one of the characters I grew up like looking into or understanding. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, yes or no. I'm just going to say I'll have to do some research there, Antonio, which I'll leave a note for myself to do so right now about who's Gore's child in the comics. And then I'll come back on it because I don't want to give false information. I love being right and I love having all the information, but I'm not going to BS my way out of a situation where I'm like, look, I don't know. I don't know what the significance or the impact of that would be, but having Gore's child in play, potentially for the Young Avengers, could be huge. That child mixed with Wiccan and with Scar, we could really have a power trio right there. Because Scar is Hulk's kid, and that's someone or something that anytime you say anything involving the Hulk line is going to be dangerous. It's not going to be what, everything that happened with our She-Hulk series where it was laughy and jokey and campy. It's going to be more serious moving forward. And sure, that series gave us Megan the Stallion twerking. But again, you could have seen that just about anywhere. It didn't necessarily need to be in Marvel. Ant-Man's daughter is a thing, but again, I think most people are burnt out on Ant-Man or don't definitively care about Ant-Man, considering his last movie where he somehow defeated Kang, which still doesn't sit right with me to this day. I'm definitely one of those people where it just felt wrong. Ant-Man should not have defeated Kang, and I understand, Kang had the allegations and everything involving, what happened, and it was, you know, we're not ever going to see him in the MCU again. I can almost say that with absolute certainty. It is still a shame that we lost the actor, but at the same time, the person behind is definitely something that is very vital. So we need to make sure our character matches up with what we have on screen. And Ant-Man's director sucks. I mean, maybe. Like, I can't say that person definitively is a bad director because, look, I absolutely hate the Star Wars sequels, and more specifically, The Last Jedi. And the person who directed that, I thought was a terrible director who should never direct again. Then I go to watch Knives Out. It's the same director, and Knives Out was absolutely fantastic. Some people are just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and their work just shouldn't have been in the universe that it was. And I think ultimately, like with that Liam Johnson that I went over, wrong place, wrong time. And maybe certain directors just aren't cut out for this line of work because we've seen a couple amazing directors come and go, and a couple amazing directors kind of gawk at superhero movies in general or TV shows and be like, I don't see the purpose or the point of that, so I'm never gonna, stick my head in the door. And then we've had people like Christopher Nolan who came and did some stuff, and then we had the Russo brothers come and do some stuff. We had Joss Whedon come and do some stuff. So it's like right now, the Russo brothers are the only ones where it's like if I see their name on a project, I'm going, I'll take a look at it if it involves superheroes. Everything else, I'm gonna kind of bow out. Sam Raimi, he shouldn't have been able to touch Multiverse of Madness. I mean, yeah, I guess because the Spider-Man movies were fun, like the OG ones, they were fun. But I think by Spider-Man 3, can I just definitively say I did not care what happened? Like after the second one, I was just done. Just me. It's like Toby's fantastic. I love seeing him come back. I love absolutely the fact that we have William Defoe in any way, shape, or form touching Marvel stuff. So I'm just talking about the shows going on right now, Sheldon. The episode finished, so we're just talking about different Marvel products. Basically, we're just kind of having a little power hour. The episode finished. It's on Disney Plus. If you wanted to go watch it, we watched it together. Solid episode. We did lose a character, so it's going to be interesting to see how they address that. But that's basically all the spoilers I'll have for you, so you can just kind of pick and choose your way through this. As we're just kind of we got off on a tangent here because I was still discussing. It looks like we're assembling the Young Avengers, but I don't know who definitively the Young Avengers are going to be able to fight against. You know what I'm saying? Because Doom is the only person that we definitively have locked in. And I'm just going to put this out there. They do not stand a shot on any universe, whether it be one or a billion, of taking out Doom right now with this team of Young Avengers that we're currently looking at. So we were just kind of ended up spitballing about like we have Ant-Man's daughter going on, Gore's daughter, all brought to you by Antonio. And then we just got on certain tangents about directors, and some directors shouldn't be touching Marvel projects, and some should just kind of stick to the definitive universes. Like Rian Johnson, great director, put his toes into Star Wars, one of the worst films I've ever seen in my entire life, definitively. Don't know how that happens. The last two episodes are going to be released same day, both next Wednesday, the 30th. I'm still looking up times. I'll set up a live stream. So if anyone is subscribed to the channel, they can just see when the live stream is. So they'll know when the episodes are dropping. Because I put the live stream usually about 5-10 minutes before the episode drops in case anyone wants to come in and chat early. Antonio is usually fairly early. So I usually have a couple conversations with him involving just whatever is going on, or just playing some usual catch up on this style of content we have coming up, whether that be Dragon Ball Daima or Dan or the Penguin, stuff of that nature. And right now, Brian, I gotta say, the Penguin for me, show of the year. It is incredible what they've done, and it is hilarious that IGN gave it a 5 out of 10. Absolutely hilarious. But again, it gave Loki season 2 a 5 out of 10. So at a certain point, you may just want to look at IGN and be like, maybe you guys shouldn't be doing reviews on things because you guys don't really seem cut out for it. It doesn't really seem to be the right move for them. But just kind of circling back to the show, we lost our divination witch. She did such a great job acting. Lilia was incredible this whole episode, and I'm gonna be honest, like she was a interesting character. I didn't care much for her because I thought she didn't have a understanding or a lick of intelligence to her. And then ultimately, she was on the ball from jump and understood everything that was going on. And it's like, yeah, it does seem they're knocking off a character every 2 episodes. The results or the impact of what's going on feels very real for this, which is what the director was going for. So a good job to them, where you feel like actions have consequences, which in Marvel or most superhero universes, people stay dead for like, maybe a crisp high five, and then they're back on screen doing something else, kind of like how we're seeing Robert Downey Jr. being resurrected with the power of money. Yay, Marvel! We're all so excited. It's great. And then Antonio, love Loki season 2. Penguin knocks it out of the park. Yeah. Penguin knocks it out of the park in my mind as well. But again, if anyone has a separate opinion, by all means, share it. This is an open forum. My opinion is not law, nor should it ever be. That would be a horrible day under the sun. And it's like, yeah, Lilia really grew on a lot of people. She wasn't necessarily, what I'd say like an all-star character is, but she was definitely working her way to being a top 3 character in the series. Because right now, definitively for me, Wiccan has been the highlight. He has stolen the show for me. I didn't come in with high hopes for him, to be honest, and I'm very happy I was wrong. It's fantastic to see an actor just be like, "Oh, cool! You didn't think I'm gonna do a good job at this? Here you go." And he's been everything you've wanted of him and more. Agatha, character number 2, absolutely fantastic acting. She's over the top at times, but that's Agatha Harkness. If you've been around for a few centuries, eventually you're going to have some quirks or some zaniness to you that most people really, really wouldn't understand. And then we had Lilia sneaking into my top 3, and then Death is at number 4. You can't really have Death that high because Death is eventually going to end up taking one of the characters you really, really liked. They took Sharon from me, they took the Protection Witch from me, and now Lilia has been taken. So we've had 3 actual on-screen deaths in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in one show, and it stuck. That's something that we have to say is a positive step forward, because a lot of times when you watch these Marvel shows, you don't really feel like the characters are ever in any real danger. And like Alice is a good character too. She's fun. She's interesting. She's unique. She's got a lot of fun qualities to her. I think Alice plays off Lilia well and all the time that they spent together. And I'm still absolutely terrified of the 7, even though I know they are gone. I don't really believe that. If you could be part of Agatha's original coven and still be up and kicking at this moment in time, you're going to be a whole problem, and a bunch of swords ain't going to finish you. We're just going to have to see what we have going on. At this point, with the good press for Deadpool, wanted to come back. I mean, I think the multi-universe of universe of madness. I can't even say what's going on with that. English language will come back to me, guys. Just kind of give it a minute. But the movie involving Doctor Strange just wasn't that great. The Multiverse of Madness. There we go. See, it came back. Um, it did significant damage to this universe. And then Thor, Love and Thunder, same thing. Black Panther 2, same thing. And then Echo was basically what we thought was going to be the ending nail in the coffin, and we were over and done with. But we had Loki, we had X-Men 97, even though we had tons of drama involving the director. And then we come back and we hit Deadpool 3, and Deadpool 3 turns out to be an absolute barn burner and epic beyond belief. And sure, it was all jokes and swearing and a great time, and it was just all nostalgia, but who's going to sit here and say they didn't enjoy most of that? So now we have to address the seriousness, though, of we are about 5 or 6 years into this particular portion of Marvel's universe. We don't have a big bad. We don't have a succinct villain. Okay, well, that's the same thing. We don't have a big bad. We don't have our characters meeting up. We don't have a major event bringing anyone even close to a semblance of a team or a unit together. And every other movies and TV show seems to be on a good and bad alternating path. How many people, honestly, and you can just let me know in chat or not, are going to be willing to continue to sit through everything Marvel does, good, bad, or indifferent, at the pace that we're going for our universe? Because right now, it's not good. Wanda's gone, Loki's gone, Thor's boring because he makes too many dang jokes. Deadpool and Wolverine are fun, but they need to be their own separate thing. She-Hulk is fun, but her series ended on an absolute dud. We have Moon Knight, who we don't even know where he's going to be involved. We still have to figure out what's going on with Doctor Strange and his third eye opening. Like, there's just more questions than answers. And a lot of people think Wanda's alive, and she's one of those beings that could be a Nexus being and just ultimately has the ability to keep things together. But is she going to be a glue enough to make our universe solid? And I know we get in Spider-Man 4, That's been confirmed. But again, is it going to be something of a major impact? Is it going to be a standalone thing? Because right now we have a lot of concurrent things going on within, like, just say New York and the Marvel Cinematic Universe that doesn't really seem to intercede at any moment in time. Seems to be the problem here. And like, yeah, Loki's defining moment, he was able to save the timeline and pull things back together and to make things make sense. Wanda could definitely use some redemption because everything involving the fact that she was willing to throw away millions of universes so she could have kids when she is someone who is capable of creating more at any moment in time with just about any man of her choosing and didn't have it happen is a little confusing to me. It's like you accidentally picked the two perfect beings and you're like, yep, these are it. These are my kids. I'm done. And then you lose them, and then all of a sudden you're like, nope, nope, we're just gonna throw the whole thing away and start over. And like Wanda, you could easily just have more. Why do you have to go out wiping out universes to ensure you're gonna have more happen? It's like, make it make sense. And then I will see Agatha All Along season 2. I mean, we don't necessarily need to go back down this witch's road again. I think if we go down here again, it'll end up being a tried and true formula for boring. If you do too much of the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting a different result, it's basically the definition of madness. And well, I think going down this road once is fun. Going down this road twice, I don't know if we're going to get better writing or better storytelling or the same level of interest that we currently have. The only reason this show isn't bigger than what it is currently is because it's dropping concurrently as Penguin, and most people saw, oh no, a woman character, and said nope, and just jumped out, as if that's a thing to be absolutely terrified of. And then it seems we have a lot of people asking for the Sharon spinoff. I have no idea what that would be about, but like, would Sharon be hanging out with Wong and his girlfriend? Was his girlfriend Tiffany? Was that her name? It was that one chick who was on the couch hanging out with him during the events of She-Hulk. Whoever that chick was. That would be a fun series, just the three of them. But again, would it do anything for the Marvel Cinematic Universe at large? No. Would it be fun? Maybe. But again, I'm Team Sharon, so there's my bias there. Would it be something I necessarily say is much watched television? No. I can't say that with any level of confidence or certainty to be like, that's what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is missing. Right now, I feel like we're just missing high stakes. Very few things seem to actually matter in the grand scheme of things. And that's something we had going on early. So we'll see if we ever get that back. I mean, the skeleton thing was terrifying. The seven terrify me more. But again, if you know me on a personal level, I do not watch horror films for many reasons. And anything even spooky or jump scary easily gets me. I jumped during Finding Nemo. The opening scene where the fish just goes really fast at the camera. I jumped when I was like 15 or 16. I was much too old to be doing that. Much too old to be doing that. So anything with any level of spooky or crazy or jump scary, no, I absolutely do not handle it well, and I do not take part for the most part. So just trying to avoid a lot of those situations. Yeah, it is hilarious. It's embarrassing, but you got to be honest with yourself sometimes. Be like, look, I can't do these things. My heart can't take it. This is enough scare for me. And right now, I have enough scare coming up Friday because my Yankees are playing in the World Series against the Dodgers. Hate talking sports on here, but whew, that's going to put my heart through the burner and the fire right then and there. Anything else we have definitively talk about involving Marvel or our witches on the road? You think Agatha is going to die at the end of the road? Ooh, that's something, Sheldon. That could really be something there. I mean, what ultimate purpose would it serve having Agatha die at the end? Is this her redeeming arc for her selling off her son Nicholas Scratch to Death so her and Death can finally be together? And will it be a death that sticks? Because if you're able to have those three elements all together, I'm in. That that could work. I want Deadpool and Aubrey to have a scene together. I mean, it would be hilarious, but again, then that would just draw more confusion involving Thanos. And I'm sure Agatha would probably just play that fill in role and get rid of Deadpool. Just use some kind of magic to force him to be stuck within his universe definitively to where he's unable to visit Death in some way, shape, or form. Because Death and Aubrey seem to have a very confident or cocky or enjoyable relationship. They're just enjoying each other. And it's obviously complicated given their history, but they seem to be happy. I think her wish is going to change from one of her powers to seeing her son, make sure he's well. I mean, technically, her son is alive. Her son is the rabbit. It's just he got transformed into a familiar and he's just hanging out by her side in this weird roundabout way. Will it be something that's doable to fix? Because they did name drop him a couple episodes ago. I think it was episode 4 or 5, one of those two. So seeing like ultimately what they can do going on here is going to be interesting to see what happens with Nicholas Scratch because he's an important figure in the comics and he has a very, let's just say, very complicated relationship involving, Agatha. But that'll be a conversation that they have, at a later date. Because, I mean, right now he's stuck as the rabbit or something worse. Because being a familiar is kind of a weird in between, but we'll see what we got going on. I mean, I don't think we'll see him either, Antonio, but at this point in time, anything is possible. I didn't think we were going to get Death in this series so definitively, or even a Mephisto literal name drop. We got both. So what do I know? Because yeah, she traded her son for the Darkhold, and that is a canon story, and that's something that was in the comics. Which again, saying canon, it just sucks saying it out loud, but at the same time, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, it's in the comics, so therefore it has to be 100% truthful. It's like, well, things can change in interpretations. That's why they call these shows adaptations. So it's like, going to be an interesting way of addressing what's going on when it's not, entirely backed up by that. So she traded him for the Darkhold and for even more powers. And then obviously we saw that that turned out to be a whole load of nothing. It was a nothing sandwich. You still lost to the Scarlet Witch and the power of her family because this is apparently the Shonen Jump universe where the Power family just powers over everybody and everything, and we all go ooh rah rah and sing kumbaya by the fire, and we're all happy endings and all. Which, if you can tell, there's enough sarcasm on that to feed a small family there because I'm not really somebody who always roots for the good guys. So I'll just put it that way. And then I think Wanda's naming the rabbit was just an Easter egg for fans that knew the name. I mean, it could be. But again, we haven't definitively said what happens to her son or what has happened to her son. We heard the son speak verbally in the episode where we lost our protection witch. So we're going to see, like, here's everything going on in that regard. So, like, Nicholas Scratch could play a part in this because originally he was behind the Seven and helped them to kind of make their moves against that a witch. But again, was that something that we're going to have happen here? Unlikely. Showed Alice as somebody rubbing her face or something, but we don't see that. I mean, a lot of times in these trailers, they show you a lot of stuff. So people will sit up here and there'll be like amazing YouTube channels where they break down shot by shot by shot what they think is going to happen. And 9 times out of 10, they're entirely wrong. But the one time they're right, that's impressive because a lot of the stuff they do a lot of showing and not telling because they definitely want to throw a lot of people off and they want to throw people into a guessing mode. So we're going to see what ultimately happens with that because episode 7's trailer had a lot of stuff that didn't transpire in this episode, and we still have episode 8 and episode 9 to go, and we still have a lot of shots from the original trailer that haven't made it into the series. So are we going to guarantee those are happening next, or are we going to get something entirely different? It's hard to say. It's just pure speculation at this point what we can ultimately have going on here. Yeah, it was like the Infinity War trailer had Hulk running with Cap and Black Panther. It never happened in the actual series because remember he was in the Iron Giant suit for all intents and purposes. He was in the Hulk Buster. So that never happened and he was trapped in this weird in between. So it's like whether Rio tells her she's dead or not, that could be interesting. Could Agatha really truly die? 100%. I don't think the only character that's actually definitively safe moving forward is going to be Wiccan because we need him to continue forward in order to have pieces of the Young Avengers be assembled. It's like if you killed him, what would purpose would it serve? Would he end up in this weird moment where he's talking with either like a Mephisto type character or Dormammu or Death, and then eventually have to be let back in because he somehow cheated Death by jumping from Westview into another body outside of it? There's a lot of pieces and a lot of ideas to play with that, but is it something we're going to definitively say is absolutely perfect? And then we don't really. Nicholas Scratch isn't necessarily always tied to Agatha, and I understand familiars can be in some moments in time. There's a lot of different stuff was going on here, and then they still do have to explain everything involving Agatha and her scar. That's absolutely correct, Antonio. Absolutely correct. Like there's still questions that need to be addressed, and I think part of episode 8 is going to be us addressing the breakup, or at least what actually happened between Agatha and Death, because I'm assuming that's going to be a terrible, terrible breakup, considering they're still like they still have the hots for each other. We all know it, but because of what happened in the past, they're not able to move past it and make something definitive happen. If you know what I'm saying. So it's like we kind of have to like go over that in some regards, and then will the son even necessarily be addressed? I'm hoping so. I hope Nicholas Scratch will be addressed at some point. Will he like name dropping him here? They name dropped him in WandaVision as well, and nothing really happened there. So there's a lot of stuff to kind of go into with that. And then the seven are actually dead. I'd be upset. Yeah, the seven should not be dead, especially considering they're in the bot universe. See, I brought that back together. Why is it always seven though? Like, but anyway, if the seven witches from the coven are dead, I would be definitely upset. 100%. Like, there's no way these swords are going to be it. Ultimately, Lilia's sacrifice will be in vain, but it was still cool as all get out. So we have to give her props there. And then that's the interesting part. Wiccan's trial, we know nothing about him, and yet we know so much about him as well. Because there's so many like lore channels that break down like comic characters and break them down to the umpteenth degree. If anyone wants to learn about those characters, they're out there on YouTube. We just don't have those lore videos yet. It's something I desperately want to add to the channel's arsenal. I just don't know if you, the viewers, would be like, hey, I would love a breakdown on this character or talk about this character and all this stuff and just try and, get into the meat and potatoes of that. So going over Wiccan's trial, I think it's ultimately going to be him having his identity in question and him learning about who he truly is, who he wants to be, and how he wants to go about his life. That's probably his biggest dilemma because he opened up with his real question: am I William or am I Billy? And that would be a really tough question to have to like really go through, like especially as a teen, finding out you literally are a different person trapped in a body. You'd be like, what do I do with this on top of all the other ongoing issues you have as a teenager? Like that's difficult. That's going to be something that's going to be a huge problem for him going forward. I mean, Agatha is going to be using the power she got from the draining, but will she be using it for positive or negative? Because again, we saw that the minute that Wiccan's power was ultimately used, or at least referenced in this episode, she immediately darted her eyes over to him that, hey, if I want my powers back, there's a battery right here I can drain that's young and ready and primed for me to go ahead and power myself up with. That's something that can happen, and that's something that could work for her. She's just like, I just need to drain his power when he's fully got some kind of hold on it, and she'll be able to be back in business. She'd get revenge against Wanda. It'd be two birds, one stone. So that's why this relationship between the two of them is tumultuous at best. So it's like we need to see ultimately what happens with that. And like just like Sheldon brought up, hey, not necessarily saying she even still has the power that she stole. She could have already used it to survive or get out of the tunnels or do something of a another kind of nature where it's either you grab it and then it's gone, or she's not able to control it or manifest it in a way that's beneficial for her going on. I mean, Alice is gone, so she served a purpose, and I think her storytelling of Agatha still having her true nature within herself and to bring out the emotion of Wiccan was necessary. I don't think it was the greatest use of a sacrifice, but it still counts. It's storytelling, regardless of whether we view it as the best use of it. That's up to interpretation. Jennifer calling out of the ground in Westview. What episode do you think that's going to be in? I mean, who's to say that Jennifer even does crawl out of the ground in Westview definitively in this series? Because in all the flashbacks we've had of Westview, it's been only flashbacks, not current time. So we haven't gotten much to go off of, if you catch my point there. It's like, I don't think we're going to go back, and I'm not sure we're going to necessarily address it, what's going on there. And if we did, it would probably be near the very, very end of this series, just because I don't think it really brings everything, going back to what's going on here. And as we've learned from Marvel, they love splicing trailers together, and 9 times out of 10, most of the footage in them is not going to be used in the series at all. It's just stuff that puts butts in seats and makes people interested. Marvel has been lying in their trailers since the beginning of time, but they have a well built up universe because of it. And we're excited to see stuff like that because, like Antonio mentioned, the Hulk running with Black Panther and Captain America. That's cool as all hell. The fact we didn't get that feels like kind of we were a little oversold, underdelivered, but we'll let it pass because, Infinity War and Endgame were, both pretty dang good movies. So we're able to have a lot of satisfying moments. But again, I don't think the trailer is accurate, and we're going to end up in this loophole of just because the trailer says it happens doesn't mean it's going to happen during the show. And then like everything involving believing you're a witch and then die the first time you use your powers. I mean, yeah, that's basically what happened to our protection witch. She had her reserves about using her power, and then she did. And it didn't go so good. She ended up basically just getting sucked dry like a battery and had her entire like life essence sucked out of her, like the if you jumped into that swirling vortex in the movie Hercules way back in the day. So we're going to have another character die at the end of the series if we're following Sheldon's proposed every 2 episodes a character dies formula, because we're due, and it will be for the finale. But who that will be, that's the great question we have moving forward. And then Rio/Death is definitely going to get their prize, but will it be necessarily the person that she's seeking the most? I can't say. And then Hulk just needs a whole redo from top to bottom. Hulk, She-Hulk, Scar, that whole family, crumple them up, toss them over your shoulder, start over. I respect all of them as actors and actresses, but the way they've done the characters and the power leveling for the Hulk and his family has been downright embarrassing. But again, if you use them like the tanks that they are, then basically the next Captain America 4 would be just an absolute joke, because there's no way the new Captain America minus the serum and only a shield and flying wings is going to take out Red Hulk. It's just not logical. It just makes no sense. So I mean, there's going to be a big showdown at the end. Will things play out the way all of us want? Maybe. And then Antonio's still here. Rayo's prize should be Deadpool. If we had Ryan Reynolds in this series, just throw the whole series out because he doesn't belong here. I understand a lot of people want Deadpool to fill the same hole that Stan Lee did as our cameo character, but at a certain point, it would really lose its luster with Deadpool. Stan Lee, on the other hand, we could just had cameo city until the day we unfortunately lost him. It doesn't hit the exact same. We all love and respect everything that the one and only Stan Lee did, and what his universe is and was to us. So ultimate respect to him. But again, having Deadpool fill that role is just, it would feel like we're lowering ourselves for a joke that is entirely unnecessary in my mind. But again, that could just be me reading way too much into this. So we'll just have to leave that where that is. I don't really have too much information for everyone else. So the big question is, what will be next? What should be next? If you watched it all the way to the end of the stream, be sure to hit that lovely red subscribe button. It's free, or the follow button on Twitch. Give Geek Variants a follow. We'll be back tomorrow with some more Dan to Dan content. Dragon Ball Daima on Friday, and then Sunday live streaming Penguin as we always do. And of course, we will be here for the finale of our lovely Agatha All Along next week. 2-episode finish, folks. Be sure to set aside that time to come hang out with the Geek Variants community. Hoping my boy Will might be back in the saddle for that one, but we shall see. I'm Brent for Geek Variants. Thank you, one and all, for a great chat tonight, and I'll see you in the next one.